As I said, mirrorless can be big or it can be large or it can be small. If you want your mirrorless camera to remain small and live up to the promise of mirrorless, buy a little 50 Zeiss Planner f2 for 800 bucks and you'll have a tiny setup with really high image quality. Hey guys, this is Steve Huff from SteveHuffPhoto.com. Debbie and I are out in Phoenix, and what do I have with me? First of all, I want to show you guys something really cool. I posted a picture of this on my website, but this is the Wotancraft Riker special edition in camouflage. If you want to check it out, go to wotancraft.com. They're still, and have been for years, my favorite camera bag. Okay, so one thing I have in this bag today is the Leica SL and the Leica 50 Summilux SL, the big monster autofocus version. But before we get into taking some photos or showing some photos in this video that I've already taken, I want to talk a little bit about the size, because a lot of people's main concern with this lens is the size and the slower autofocus speed. Now, if you compare the autofocus speed of this 50 Summilux SL to the 24-90, the 24-90 is faster to autofocus. It's a f2.8 zoom, and this is a f1.4 huge lens with large elements. And there really are no large lenses like this in 50mm with an f1.4 aperture made by anyone that has blazing fast autofocus. It just is not there. And as a matter of fact, Leica concentrated more on the image quality of this lens to be the best lens that they've ever created. So speed was not the main factor with this lens. Now, if you shoot a Leica SL, this is the only game in town if you want a 51.4 with autofocus. This is native for the SL, and in no way does it autofocus slow. It autofocuses slower than f2.8 zooms. It autofocuses slower than a Sony A9 and a 24-70, but it will autofocus about the same as a Sony A7R II and the Sony 51.4. So again, Leica went all out for quality, which is what Leica users seem to want more than speed. And some have tested this lens against what many consider the best 50mm in the world, the Leica 50mm f2 Apo Summicron. But at f1.4, some tests show this lens out-resolving that Summicron at f2, and this lens comes in at a couple thousand, actually probably more like 2,500 less than the Apo Summicron. And it will focus faster than the 50 Summicron because the 50 Summicron is manual focus only, which you can also do with this lens. So the build of this lens is fantastic. It's made in Germany. It's large, as you can see, so it's not small. It's a little smaller than the 24-90. It's a little heavier. So when you're shooting this camera, it balances really well. You put your hand here and it helps take the weight off of the camera. So when you shoot it, you're using two hands. When you're using it, you forget about the weight and the size. And when you go back home and look at the photos, you marvel at the color, the 3D separation that is pretty extreme with this lens and cool. The color performance, which is up there with the 50 Apo. And again, it's the only game in town if you want autofocus for your Leica SL. It does deliver better color performance than the M Summilux on this camera. And it seems to give the illusion of a more shallow depth of field for some reason. And it's a little bit wider if you compare the two. So we're going to walk around here. I'm going to take a few photos and also share with you some photos that I shot the other night here. Very low light at a place called the Lost Leaf. They have music 365 days a year, nights a year, and it is a torture test for any camera because it's near dark in that venue. It's very small. It's an old house. So here I am. I'm going to show you how quick or how slow, depending on who you are. Okay, so I'm going to press down on the focus button. As soon as it nails focus, I'm going to yell out focus. You might also hear the beep. Here we go. Focus. 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 Across the street, focus. 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 And focus. So the focus is not as slow as some would lead you to believe. It's actually just as quick as other compatible or comparable 50mm lenses of this optical quality. The Zeiss Otis, which is also compares to, is manual focus and a little bit larger. So this lens is about the right size for what Leica made it for, which is out and out, all out quality. Alright, so as with all our videos recently, it's hot. It's September. It's still like 108, something like that. I'm not sure. But we're just walking around Phoenix using the Leica SL and the 50 Summilux SL. Took some shots the other day, getting a few more today. And you could see the written review at stevehufffphoto.com. Okay, how about some photos with this lens on this Leica SL? I had it for only a few days, but let's check it out. Alright, this first image was shot at 1.4, f1.4, and straight out of the camera from RAW, basically. It has that nice, almost medium format look to it. Very, very nice colors right out of the camera, and that's what this lens brings to the table. Just like the 50 APO, you're going to get that, again, medium format-ish quality with amazing, fabulous colors. Again, the AF is a little slower than the 24-90, but you have a 51.4 here with a huge element. Look at the colors here, the green of the bike, the lovely bouquet. This lens, as far as IQ goes, is absolutely stunning. Again, the colors, the green of the trees, it's very bold. The Leica reds that come from the SL and the Q and now the M with the best glass. This was just some mist blowing out of misters. This is at the Lost Leaf Club in Phoenix. This was the guy checking IDs to get in. And you know, it has that classic Summilux look to it. Next I'll have a portrait of him up close. And this is him with a portrait, or the portrait of him at night. This was like 11:30 at night. f1.4 wide open. And now we're going to go into the Lost Leaf Bar where I shoot often. It's downtown on Roosevelt and 3rd Street. And they have live music 365 days of the year. You know, as we see today, people on Facebook constantly. I saw her on Facebook, took the image wide open again, f1.4. At a higher ISO because inside this bar is very, very dark. This was either ISO 3200 or 6400, I don't remember, but it's wide open, f1.4, as every shot in here was taken because I believe that great Leica glass like this deserves to be shot wide open. That's where the magic lies. That's where it hangs out. If you stop it down to f4, it's going to be amazing, yeah, but it's going to look like any other 50 at f4. You're going to get that character wide open at f1.4. Here's a shot. I shot in a window of a door opposite the band that was setting up, and I caught the reflection just to kind of give it a surreal kind of atmospheric look to it, almost film-like there. This is the bar. As you can see, it says live music 365 days a year. On weekends, this place can get pretty busy. It's actually in a small house. I believe the house was built in the 20s, and they converted into a music club and bar. This is the Cadaver Dabadoos playing. They were a punk rock band duo of girls and a guy on the drums, and it was so challenging to shoot because the Lost Leaf has basically one big red light, as you can see here above, so it's torture test for auto white balance and exposure. It's very dark. Usually you have to shoot in here at 6400 or 10,000, even using fast lenses. So these were mostly shot at 6400, I believe, maybe 3200 on a few. And this is basically what it looks like when you're in the Lost Leaf watching a musical act. It's always red at the Lost Leaf, but we love this place. We go quite a few times a year. This is outside of the Lost Leaf through a window with the reflection of what's across from it, Black Raven tattoo. So you see a little bit of inside the lost leaf, a little bit of what's next to it, and again, that surreal look. I love playing with reflections at times. This was a high ISO shot with the SL, wide open, 50-1.4. The bass player in the band. I was pretty much up right next to her, almost. That's the cool thing about the lost leaf. You can take photos, and they encourage it actually, because these are musical acts that want exposure. So again, these are the Cadaver Dabadoos, and they were the first band that night. We actually didn't stay too long. This is a black and white shot. As you can see, some of the shots I converted to black and white. It seems that they have a better feel. But using this lens on the SL with autofocus, even in this low light, it was locking on as long as it used the AF assist light. But since that would flash in their face, I turned it off and I went to manual focus. So I shot most of those shots with manual focus, just as I would an M lens or what have you. And it was very easy, again, due to the EVF of the Leica SL. Even when using autofocus, it would focus faster than an M lens because it's autofocus. So I think a lot of the slowness of the AF has been blown out of proportion, because with the latest firmware, and for me, it was about the same as using a Sony 50-1.4, their top-end lens, a Canon 50-1.2, such and such. When you have such a hunk of glass and a high-quality exotic glass and an aperture of 1.4, you're not going to have blazing AF. But what you do get here is pinpoint accuracy, which you can see here in this 100% crop. You can see the full crop at stevehufffphoto.com. You can see this image there and see how amazingly detailed yet smooth the crop is. This is the character of the lens. It's sharp yet smooth. It's never analytical. So you're getting that Leica APO, 50 APO look, but you're getting it with f1.4 and you're getting it with autofocus. That's the benefit of this lens. It's not a lens built for speed. It's not a lens built for action. It's a lens built, like most Leica lenses, to capture life memories, to capture things around you. Here's my dog kissing my friend in our pool. Look at the 3D separation. That's pretty awesome and extreme. So it will definitely carve out your subject from the background when using this lens. And again, the red of the umbrella is spot on. We just bought that brand new and we put it up, and the color was so bold, I wanted to see how this combo would capture it. And once again, that Leica SL color is absolutely gorgeous. This just shows you how low light it was. This was basically what it looked like in the room of the lost leaf. And that's why you have to use high ISO. But the SL cameras like the Sony A9, they handle it very well. So overall, I was very satisfied with this lens. And while it's not perfect, it doesn't have blazing autofocus. The IQ cannot be faulted. And here's a little bit more on the combo. I don't have the lens hood on. The lens hood does make it much bigger. So if you're afraid of large lenses, this is not the lens for you. It's large, but it's also, again, one of Leica's best lenses, according to Leica, that they've ever made, especially for the SL. When you're talking about all-out picture quality and versatility, you're talking about speed of aperture, so you can shoot in low light. And the SL is good up until about ISO 6400 if you're in really low light. If you have a little bit of light, you can go to 12,800. But this lens is unique. Of course, there's other options. You can buy the Zeiss 50 sonar that's tiny, the Summicron, the Summilux, any of the M-mount lenses, and attach them via an adapter. And you'll spend a little less than you would on this, and you'll have a very small system. As I said, mirrorless can be big or it can be large, or it can be small. If you want your mirrorless camera to remain small and live up to the promise of mirrorless, buy a little 50 Zeiss Planner f2 for 800 bucks and you'll have a tiny setup with really high image quality. If you want the max benefit from it, and what I mean is the maximum image quality, for those who want the best. For some people, good enough is good enough. For some people, they want the best. That's what this lens is for, that crowd. The people who want the best optical qualities. Now, this lens does not have any image stabilization. I've seen some false reports out there from a couple people that said it does, and it does not. But again, if you want autofocus and it autofocuses just fine. This is the lens you're going to want if you shoot an SL and you want a 50-1.4. But there's options. That's what's cool about mirrorless. You can attach any size lens you want to it. With DSLRs, you're stuck with those big lenses if you want that optical quality. You can't mount a Leica M lens onto a DSLR. That's why I love mirrorless cameras, like the SL with this huge EVF. There's still nothing like this EVF today.
So basically what I'd like to say is, if you want to read my final conclusion on this lens, you can go to stevehufffphoto.com, where I have the full written review, my final conclusion, what I think of it after using it, and all of that good stuff. Thanks for watching, and this is Steve at Steve Huff Photo. If you like this video, thumbs up and subscribe, and there'll be much more on the way. Thanks. Bye.